well.
Okay, we are live. Yeah, we're live on on YouTube.
All right, and we will be live on Facebook in a few seconds. Ta-da! We are live.
Yay!
Hello, beautiful people of the world. Where's my dashboard?
Probably
I
in your
am not
dash.
very good at streaming on Facebook. But oh, it's because I'm not a. Okay, I'm. Why is it like that? Oh, okay. I'm on the dashboard. I just didn't recognize it. That's how good I am.
That's great.
All right. Hello, everyone. How is everyone on this fine day? And how are you, my good friend Necrovoker?
I'm great. I
Good.
hate the person that invented the daylight saving time, but otherwise I'm good.
We shall discuss it. Don't you worry, my friend. Uh, um, yeah, I'm fine too. It's been oddly busy the last little while, to be honest, but not all in a bad way. So I guess that's not all bad.
Good.
Just gonna poop. There you go. I'm not just gonna poop. I'm just gonna, and then I did a sound.
Yeah, right there on screen. This is a new type of podcast.
This is quality entertainment. It's just, hey guys, welcome to my live vlog. Follow me to the shitter.
I mean, some people are gonna be into it.
Yeah, that's the worst part, but I'm not sure that's the kind of people I want to attract to my stream.
There's gonna be some people that are into it, and there's some people that are gonna be really into it.
Some people are going to be like, "Hey, man, this guy is normalizing poop. That's good. That's a good progress in life."
Yeah, there's gonna be
And then
doing
there are others
discussion.
that are going to be too busy with their hands to do any talking. Let's not talk about those. All right. So I say we jump right into it. So today we wanted to talk about time in general. Like Necro said, we had daylight saving times just this last weekend. I know it's not everywhere that does daylight saving times, which makes it even dumber. But I mean, even in Canada, right? It's not everywhere, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I wanted to talk about time in general, time management, and how to utilize time and various things like that. So that's kind of where I was going with this discussion, and I planned out a few prompts for us. So hopefully we'll be able to have a nice stimulating discussion with this.
Yeah.
You don't seem hopeful.
My
Uh,
levels of energy are really low, so you're gonna have to bear with me.
all right, I get that. No worries. So I guess we'll start off with how do you perceive time? Like how is time management a stressor or not in your life? I don't know this about you. I don't know exactly how you manage that. So I guess we'll start with that.
Um, well, uh, one part of that's important to understand it also is that like I have ADHD, so certain um like time management is an issue because like doing certain activities can take very long time because I have a hard time
Yeah.
focusing on them. Um, but when I put myself in the right mindset, I'm able to do some productive stuff. But usually, what I do, like my life is separated in chunks of stuff. You know, like morning is just like kid routine, getting them ready for daycare, and then I have a chunk of work, and then I have a chunk of not work, and then I have another chunk of work, and then I have daddy time, and then at 10 p.m. I get my life back.
Oh, okay, so that leads me to another question then. That chunk of when you said the chunk of not work, is that always the same thing for you? Like, is that also part of the routine, or is that kind of a free for all? And which do you prefer? Do you prefer having a routine, or do you prefer having some time to do whatever?
I mean, what I do in that period is different, like depending on what I feel like. But I do like having a routine of sorts, just because that reassures me and makes my life easier and more manageable.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think it's interesting because I don't have the ADHD. I have depression, which is a whole other can of worms. Um, but it makes my relationship with time and with routines a little bit different than yours, which is why I find it interesting because I also have a routine. Obviously, with kids, you can't really survive without a routine. Am I right?
Yeah.
But I at the same time that I have an established routine and it helps us get through the day and it helps my kids get through their day. Um, I also hate it. I also
Mm.
hate having a routine and I hate being stuck, feeling stuck in that routine. So it's a bit of a complicated relationship, and it makes it so that time in between portions of the routine, that dead weight time, if I don't already have a clear idea of how I'm going to fill it, it stresses me to no ends. It's kind of ridiculous. Like if I don't know what I'm going to be doing, then I get very stressed. But at the same time, I don't want to plan everything that I'm doing because I think that makes me feel stuck. So basically, I'm never happy. But
Yeah, I was gonna say like there's no like winning in this case.
no, well, the way that it's winning is like the few times that those periods of time I actually feel good and productive or whatever is when kind of on the fly something pops up and I get an idea of something that I want to do and it works. If I get an idea of something that I want to do, I try and something gets in my way, then it gets a little bit disappointing or frustrating or whatever. But when I'm like, oh, I know what I'll do this, and that works, that's when I'm in heaven. That's when everything seems to be all well with the world.
Right, right. Yeah, like just because of how I am, how my wife is, and just being parents, like spontaneity is not like an option most of the time. And I mean, I am passionate about stuff, and like you, like when I get this spark of inspiration or just motivation that I want usually want to capitalize on it, but not always possible. And
Oh,
usually I still like to have like my and know with the time I have in front of me that's like okay, this is what I can do in this amount of time. And yeah, it's just reassuring. Or otherwise I guess when there's no like time allocated for enough time allocated for different tasks, I get stressed out.
yeah, I get that. Like it's definitely um there is that element of reassurance for the routine and knowing exactly how much time is left and all that on my end too. But if it gets to be too much of the same thing, that's kind of when I start to be frustrated by it.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me a bit about your routine with the kids. Like, how did you guys establish that on your end, and how did you find what worked? And did you find something that works, or did you find something that works for now?
Well, for the morning it was just like fully a trial by fire. Like we had no preparation, just like the day. Like I mean, we had like a sort of like few days period when my kids started daycare, but my wife hadn't started working. But now, like as soon as as soon as she went back to work, like we had no like I mean we had a sort of idea of what was gonna happen, but then like just the first day we're just like okay, and we need to do this and that in the morning we need to be gone at this time. And then just like this, the whole plan just like unfurled itself, and like, and I mean, we've like refined it, but otherwise, like the first day scrambling is what established the routine in the morning, and
Yeah, definitely.
it's been essentially the same for the afternoon, about the after daycare as well. Just chill a bit, do the prepare supper, go take the showers or baths, and then just do the whole try to go to bed stuff.
Famous bedtime routine.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate challenge of parenthood is the bedtime routine.
They haven't been too tough to put to bed these days, at least. Just
Good.
they just go to bed. Like, I mean, one of them no, but my eldest just goes to bed late. That's just the way it
Mm.
is.
And I think that's fine because like you can't force them, right? If they're
No,
not tired, they're just gonna get frustrated. And and sleep is a whole other subject that we could probably get into at one point. But just a quick parenthesis is when I talked to my psychologist about my sleep cycle and all that. One of the things that she said is that the worst thing you can do is end up feeling frustrated about your sleep because it's supposed to be a restful time, right?
yeah,
So what she suggested is if ever I start feeling stress of I'm not falling asleep, I need to fall asleep because tomorrow I have to get up early or whatever, to just get up, get the pressure off of having to fall asleep and just go like walk around, get water downstairs or something. But she's like, don't live your frustration in your bed. And I think that's important for kids too. This needs to be a period of time that's positive for them in order for that routine to work.
yeah,
And you said it too, the trial and error, trial by fire. There's no one thing that works for every kid. You gotta try everything and invent new things, and what works one month isn't gonna work the next, and then you just gotta just back to the drawing board and keep trying new things.
yeah. No,
We
totally, yeah. Just yeah, like for a bit, for a long time actually, like I was frustrated with, and I was trying to change my kids like sleeping habits, and like as soon as I like just came to peace with the the fact that he went to bed late, that's how he is, like it became much smoother at that point, just much less of a struggle every day.
Yeah, like, and I understand that part of it sucks too, right? Because when you don't have that control, then you kind of feel like you're held hostage almost.
Yeah, to some degree, yeah.
Yeah, and which is fair. I mean, we get used to a certain kind of life and a certain kind of rhythm, and then kids come in and they have their own rhythm that's ingrained inside their little heads, and we have to kind of adapt our livelihoods with theirs, and do our best to try and find peace within that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I strongly believe I've done it too. Obviously, I tried to change this sleep cycle. I tried to make it fit more the schedule that I wanted. Um, I think everybody tries it, and sometimes it works. And if it works, then that's just because it was meant to work. But if it doesn't work, it's because your kid has its own sleep cycle that's already ingrained. And sure, there are ways to kind of modify it slightly, but it'll never be you don't have 100% control over that. And I think you just gotta I strongly believe that you gotta follow the flow of your kid for a lot of that routine stuff because A, it makes things so much simpler, and B, it's I don't think it's even possible to force a child to do anything, let's be honest, without using brute force.
Yeah, no, and it's just like it makes your life so much easier to just, and better for your child and you to just accept that you're not fully in control.
Yeah, exactly.
they're their own person, and they have their own thing going on, and you have to respect that.
And fully in control, like you said, is the key too, because there are some things that are going to be unacceptable. But for a lot of things, if you can be flexible and let the kid kind of move at his own pace, at their own pace, I think that works a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. I want to know how you plan trips. Like if you're going on a trip with your family, or maybe just with your girlfriend, or whatever, like, do you plan everything like at the minute almost? Like, okay, this day we're gonna do this activity, we're gonna go see this attraction, blah blah blah. Or do you kind of have a more open schedule? What's your preference for that?
Well, I haven't really done a like um I don't know, like a tourist trip. It's like one of, like, like a visit type, like the oh no, that's
Well,
completely false
say your
actually.
honeymoon, for example.
Yeah, honeymoon we just spent like a week in the resort basically, but we did have like activities when once in a while, but which we yeah, we planned a little bit. So and based on other trip, basically what we would do is just, and what works the best for us, because my wife also likes things to be structured a certain way. Um, but then, like, I mean, we both stress out if like that schedule is not respected. So what we usually do is keep a schedule we can that's like somewhat flexible, like in terms of like not minute by minute, because then like that's doomed to fail. So what we
Yeah.
usually do is just like have these chunks of, okay, like we're gonna have like this floating activity at some point, and otherwise like we're gonna be chilling in that spot for that amount of time. Um, like when we would go visit like somewhere, we're just like, okay, like this morning we visit like this area. At that time we have this tour of something, but otherwise in the afternoon we have this other thing, and then like that's it. You don't like we keep like a semi structured like schedule that allows us to have some spontaneity or flexibility to it, while still keeping a like not a full chaos uh, model.
Yeah, I kind of lived both experiences in a like in the within the span of a couple of years, and because like in 2011 I went with my mother to Scotland and the UK, in England, and that trip was planned to a T because we never stayed in the same city more than one day, except for the last 4 days that we were in London. So we always had a train to catch, we always had to find a taxi or a bus or whatever. So we didn't really have a choice but to plan it accordingly, and to know ahead of time the things that we wanted to see and when we were able to see them, and booking tours and things like that, just to make sure that we got to see everything that we wanted to see.
Yeah.
um, and then in 2015, went to France with my girlfriend to see some friends that we have over there, and that was kind of the opposite, because we went to their place. We stayed at their place during those 2 weeks, um, except for 2 nights that we stayed at a hotel. But for most of that trip, we stayed at their place, and we kind of allowed them to guide us wherever they wanted to go. We had a few, like a checklist of things that we wanted to see, but we didn't have specific dates where we were going to see them, which was an interesting experience, and I can't decide which one I actually preferred. Um, like the one in France was definitely more more restful because it was slower pace and it was more like it was 100% flexibility. The one in Scotland though was super interesting because we got to see so much stuff, right? Because it was all planned and we got to enjoy the countrysides when we were in the trains and things like that. Um, so yeah, it was two very different experiences, but I can't decide which one I preferred. Um, did you go on a trip with the kids yet? Like on a touristy trip
Not yet.
with your eldest? Maybe not yet.
Not yet.
So what I find works best for with the kids is to have like so far what has worked best is having one activity usually in the morning and then planning for either a long free for all type activity in the afternoon or just kind of having a bit of free time, and a hotel pool is usually the go-to for us. We pick a hotel with a pool and the kids love it, so we do an activity in the morning and then the afternoon we just spend it in the pool and relax. That's usually but what's been
Yeah, yeah.
working the best for us. So kind of a mix also of still trying to squeeze in one activity while having that flexibility because kids get tired, and when kids are tired, they're monsters. So you just gotta find ways to let them blow off their steam and not be too tired at the end of the day either, because that's not better.
No. No, just like yeah, kids have they have a lot of energy, but then like they don't necessarily know how to manage it because they just don't have the capacities for to do so. So they just one day they're one time at some point they're just gonna crash or when they're starting to get tired, like they're not just gonna say like, okay, I want to go to bed. They're just not gonna be able to function properly, and you have to make that call.
Yeah, and that leads us to the great subject of daylight saving time, because daylight saving time, as a parent, is as anyone,
It sucks.
but yeah, and it's dumb. It's completely useless. And as a parent, it's even worse because you're especially when you work hard to get your kids on a sleeping routine and then it starts working and then daylight saving times comes and you're like, "Oh my God." But I find that the one that we just went through this weekend, so the fall daylight saving time, is not as bad as the one we're going to live this spring.
Oh yeah, the one in the spring is pure horror.
It's chaos. It's ridiculous. Like, yeah, I know you're not tired, but you got to go to bed now because tomorrow it'll be a different time. It's like 5-year-olds don't care. They don't get that. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just like, no, I'm not tired. Like, I don't want to go to bed. Fuck you, Dad.
Oh yeah, I know. I know. I had this like yeah, this time around it wasn't so bad. It actually affected me more than the kids, I think. Although
Yeah, same.
they've gone to bed slightly early these days. The eldest has just been crashing on the sofa. But
Which doesn't sound that bad, you know, because
no, no.
if they go to bed earlier, then it just makes it simpler. Like my 5-year-old fell asleep like a rock the other day too, and I was surprised and then remembered daylight saving times and went, oh yeah, okay. But sorry, keep going.
um, but I remember um the the first daylight saving change that happened when uh I just had like my eldest son. Um, when he was born, my eldest would wake up in the morning like between 7:30 and 8:30, and that was fucking great.
Yeah, that's a good time for a kid to wake up. Like that, I'm ready to start my day at that time. I have no problem with that.
And then the daylight saving thing happened, and then that switched to like six between 6 and 7. And I mean, usually he wakes up at 7. That's good, but like
Mhm.
we've never gone back to 8 a.m. And I miss those days because 8 a.m. as a parent is like
Sleeping in.
that's sleeping in. That's I haven't slept, quote unquote, slept in months and months.
Me and my girlfriend have an agreement that during the weekends, usually we like not all the time, but sometimes we try and swap one day. So one day, we'll let the other have more time in the morning, either to sleep or to just like relax and not have to take care of breakfast with the kids and whatnot. Um, and I usually sleep just because my body needs it, but I also hate it because um, when I sleep late, I tend to fall asleep late, and then it just kind of ruins my whole cycle for the rest of the week. But I still feel like I need it. I need that couple of hours of extra sleep on Saturday morning sometimes. So I don't know what to do about that. But yeah, that's a system that we developed just because like you said, like we were used to kind of on the weekends, especially when we weren't working, just get up whenever when we were done laying down. Like that was the only
Yeah,
prerequisite.
at least like it was. I mean, it was hard for me as well, but at least like my wife was never a like she's a morning person.
Yeah,
She wakes up
same for mine.
early. She does her things. Um, Meanwhile, I can sleep. I could sleep till like 11, and I'd be fine. Uh, so I had already like that prep of not waking up at the time I would want to wake up. Like
Mm,
before the kids.
yeah,
Uh,
that's good practice.
Obviously, when the kids arrived, and that was like pushed again like for a few hours, and like now we're
Mm,
waking up super early. But I don't even know how I could go back to the old model, because I loved sleeping as fuck. I love sleeping, like, and I haven't gotten a good full night's sleep in years. But it's I've grown accustomed to actually have mornings now. Like when you wake up at 10, like you get ready, you eat breakfast, and then like it's lunch.
yeah, you're almost halfway through the day already. Yeah.
So like I remember when I was a kid, well, I'm not a kid, but like a teenager, like I'd wake up like, yeah, late in the morning, like just chill around, eat breakfast, get ready, and then it was 1 p.m. And like my day would start at 1 p.m. Like my day starts at 7 now.
Yeah.
And like that's a huge chunk of time. Obviously I would go to bed later when I was a teenager, but and that's not really a possibility now, but it's just I like having that chunk of time that I can actually do stuff. I was like, I mean, that's all kid stuff, but I can still do stuff in that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I also prefer waking up earlier. Um, the last few months though, I've been completely unable to. Like I've been trying to reset my sleep cycle since June, and every time that I try, like I'm like, okay, like because the trick to reset your sleep schedule is not to go to bed early because that just gets frustrating. It's to wake up early and keep waking up early until you're tired enough to go to bed earlier. That's the trick, according to all the experts, including my psychologist. But I just can't. I if if I hear if I hear my alarm in the morning, then before I even wake up, it's like muscle memory. I press snooze. And and then I wake up 2 hours later or an hour later, depending on the day or whatever. And I look at the time and like, man, my alarm didn't ring again. And my girlfriend says, yes, it did. You press snooze again. I'm like, I need one of those alarm clocks that I saw. I forget where, somewhere on the internet, that runs away from you.
I was
It's
gonna say, yeah, that's this one. I'm just like, fuck you. Look.
exactly. I saw that on whatever on the internet, and I thought it was genius. There's one that you have to shoot it, which I think defies the purpose because you can still stay lazy in your bed. But the one that goes like and just runs away is like, oh fuck, I have to find it. It's under the bed or something.
Well, I think the idea of like having to shoot it is because you have to like, you can't actually aim when if you're groggy. So you
Yeah,
actually
that's fair.
needs to like you need to be like mentally awake, and at that point you're awake, so might as well be awake, you know.
Yeah, my willpower early in the morning is not strong enough, I feel, to not just say, "All right, the alarm clock is dead. I'm going to bed now."
Yeah. Oh man, yeah,
Uh,
that's honestly that's been good for my mental health. Of not like since I had kids, like I don't need an alarm clock because they are my alarm clock.
mm,
I mean, I don't need to get to work anywhere. I work from home, so and I have flexible hours, so like although it doesn't matter anyway, but uh like I don't need to wake up at a certain time, except if like when my wife needs to go to work. And so my wife has an alarm clock, but we don't sleep in the same bed these days because we both sleep with one kid.
mm,
So basically, what in the morning I'm either woken up by the kid I'm sleeping with, or with my wife coming to see me, bringing me the other kid so that she can get ready. So
mm.
like my kids are my alarm clock. So and that's been great for my mental health because like alarm clocks are my nightmare. I fucking hate them. They cause me enormous amount of anxiety. Like they destroy my day from the get-go. It's the worst. But having a kid is like, I mean, sometimes they yell in your face for you to wake up, but usually they're pretty gentle about it. So it's,
Yeah, it all depends on the chosen method.
yeah, sometimes they're just gonna yell in my face. Otherwise, they're just like wake up, daddy.
My kids are not reliable alarm clocks because there are some days, especially during the week, where we have to get up a bit earlier. There are some days that they can sleep until 7:30, 8 o'clock. Um, Never on weekends though. Weekends they're always up at 6 for some reason.
Yep, they know,
Um,
they feel it.
yeah, they do. My youngest has started waking up in the middle of the night and sneaking into our bed, and we're both sleeping like rocks, so we don't even notice. And then I just wake up at one point, and his head is right beside mine, and he's under the covers. He's all comfortable and everything, and completely knocked out. But if he wakes up before me and he's already in our bed, his preferred method of waking me up is jumping on me, which I don't appreciate.
Yeah, that's rough.
Um, and my alarm clock is actually a song that I really like, so it doesn't cause me that same anxiety. But if back when you didn't have that choice and it was either the actual like alarm clock machine that would go bang, 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 or the generic phone alarm clocks, yeah, those definitely like
Well,
start your day off frustrated
the problem with
at the
the
very
songs
least.
is that like I would grow to hate the song.
Yeah, that did that for a while too. So far so good though with this one.
Because like I would just like the song would create like new feelings, and like whenever I would hear it outside of that context, like it just would fully ruin the experience. So I just stopped doing that and just use generic ones because yeah, couldn't deal.
You're gonna get frustrated anyways. May as well not ruin a song out of it.
Exactly.
All right, so changing gears again, but staying on the subject of time, we're both fans of general fantasy and what's generally known as science fiction and all that. So I want to know, what's your take on time travel? Firstly, do you think it's possible that eventually we figure out a way to time travel?
Uh, I'm not good on the science, but I think it's definitely possible to go forward, but not backwards, because backwards makes no sense.
Because most of the movies or the stories or whatever, it's about going backwards. Eh? So I'm curious to know why you think that.
Oh, because you can't
I'm,
go
I'm not good at the science either.
because you can't go back and change something that's already happened, because that's not how it works. Like, or you create like a new like timeline, like parallel reality, but then like it still be your reality, so it wouldn't have changed the past, so it's impossible to change the past. because you can
I
change your past basically.
yeah, I forget what the name of that theory is, and I probably should have looked it up, but add it here in post. Uh, like, there's a theory, and I forget if it was Einstein or someone else, but it was someone of great renown in the world of science. I just forget which one it was, that said that time is kind of in a U shape. And I have no idea how they got to that conclusion, but the idea is that if you found a way to build a bridge in that U, then technically it was possible to travel through time. And there's a lot of theories as to how to do that particular portal and whatnot. That goes way over my head as not being anyone who ever studied physics in any significant form. But I think that's really interesting. But and this I'm turning into a question that I'm asking you. I don't know if this were a possibility, if I'd be gutsy enough to try it. I'd definitely be curious, but I don't know if I'd be gutsy enough to do it.
Probably not because I don't care. Like I don't want to. Like I don't like time travel stories. I think it's a bad narrative like motif. I don't personally like it.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't want to go back to anything. I'm fine. Like especially with like butterfly effect. If you can actually affect the past, like anything you can change is gonna like destroy your present. Like whatever happens, your present is gonna be different. Uh, and I don't want that. I like my present. I like my life. I don't want to change it. So, and I mean, going to the future, sure, but then like you skew what your present is as well because you're affecting where you're going to be eventually because you know where like you're trying to like drive your ship in a certain way which changed your natural course, and I don't want that either. So I'm good right here on my present.
If you could travel through time as a spectator, though, would you go forwards? Would you go backwards? When and why?
As a spectator, I'd go backwards, obviously, because I'm an historian, so I'd go to the Middle Ages and have fun. Just watch some
Watch the
stuff.
Hundred Years War unfold and go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, just that'd be fun. Just because like when you never, as an historian, never get to be like a primary source account, or at
That's the
least.
thing that I find. Sorry, go ahead, finish.
Oh no, 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 yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the thing that I find. Um, that's the thing that I find interesting about history. I was gonna say interesting and frustrating, but it's not true. It's not frustrating. It's just interesting, and that's that. There are very few things, especially the further back you go, that we actually know to be facts. There are things that are generally accepted by bajillions of historians before us, but there are very few things that are proven. And I think that's super interesting because theoretically, if you can prove a any theory wrong, and people start agreeing with you, then all of a sudden that's the new historical truth, right?
Yeah, no,
And
exactly.
it's interesting. It makes it so that we can always learn more. Um, but yeah, the history is a weird science for that. That it's a well, I mean, any science is ever changing, but um, it feels like this one, like history is said and done, so it shouldn't move, right? But because we don't have anyone who was actually there to tell us, yeah, this is exactly what happened and why, then we have to guess a lot of it.
Well, and you said it like a lot of people don't understand is that history is a science. Like the thing is like this the history most people are familiar with is the one that's taught like in high schools and stuff, and that's takes the form of usually like a timeline with events that happen at a certain date and you need to learn them, and like it's all neat. the thing is, like, that is not history, that's memory. And what
Sure.
memory is what your government wants you to think or know about the events that shape your country. Usually, that's how it goes. Sometimes it can be very blatant. Sometimes it's not as blatant, but it always memory is history with an agenda. Um, History is not just like a timeline of events. It's a science. You said it. Historians follow the scientific method, which means you start with a hypothesis and then you don't try to prove something. You go into the sources, you analyze them, and then you see uh what you can find in terms of just observations, and then you compare those observations with your hypotheses, which is we call our thesis, and then that gives us a new conclusion or a new understanding of what history possibly can be. So history is not about truth; it's about our understanding of the truth and understanding of how things happen. But that's fragmentary because, like, like we have no first like witness account. That's not how it works. We have unreliable testimonies. Like, for the longest time, like, historians are a new thing as a science. It's a pretty new thing. It's
Yeah.
a 20th century thing. Before
Is it
that,
20th century?
well, I mean, I consider like Mark Bloch to be like the first real historian, and the guy died in World War II. So
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was thinking late 19th. Since to me, I saw some historical research as sources, but
oh
that
yeah,
was
I mean,
years ago. That
you do get like people that do have like this instinct of trying to be like unbiased and try to like bring a few testimonies. I mean, like, Plutarch is considered like the father of history, and yeah, he created a lot of like, he put together good stuff, but he's still like extremely biased because ancient writers are biased. They usually write for important people. These important people want history told a certain way. These people also have their own opinions that they want to share because they're usually orators, they're philosophers, they're preachers. They have an agenda, and that's so, like, when you read something in an old book, that's not a truth necessarily. That you need to corroborate that with uh, other writers. You need to compare that with um, archaeological findings, or just try to figure shit out, basically, and compare everything and try to make sense of a puzzle that we don't have all the pieces for, because a lot of stuff's been lost, and that's the way it is. So we try to guess like the image on the jigsaw puzzle if with like half the pieces are missing, and that's history, and that's really fun. I like it.
yeah, half the pieces are missing, and the other half are not necessarily reliable either. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, the ancient writers had bias. Modern historians have biases too.
Oh yeah.
Like even university researchers, they this is an issue in academia. I find um, where major research is being uh, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's being pushed in the direction that supports whoever is sponsoring that research. And because there's that need to get that sponsor for the research, there's that need to be paid for the work that you do, which is absolutely normal, right? But because that's there, it adds biases to research that prevent certain information to come out sometimes. I think academia is probably where you're going to get the more in-depth research, and you're going to get more detailed research on the variety of subjects, but it's not um free of bias by any means.
No, but uh, like academia, like one of the things we learn as in school as historians is to like that everyone has a bias and that's just impossible to get rid of because we're not robots, we're
Yeah.
humans. uh but what we're taught in school is to try to like rein in these biases, essentially try to take notice of them, try to like
And to
circumvent them.
identify them
Yeah,
and to identify them in the sources that we read.
yeah,
If you see somebody who's being sponsored by an emperor, well, chances are that anything that's positively said about that emperor is going to be um, emphasized, whereas the less cool parts might be ignored completely. For example, just to give like a very generic
yeah.
example.
And bias is fine. Like it's I mean depends on the type of bias. I mean if you're saying like everything about white people are trash, then like that's not a good bias. But that's a big red flag. But uh but I mean everyone has bias and sometimes they're just like subconscious and you just like you're raised a certain way, so you are more like sympathetic to certain patterns. Like for the longest time, because of the way I was taught and because I grew in Quebec, I tend to flock to like the underdogs or flock to like the nationalist movements for like independence of like all the nations and stuff like that. I've grown out of that, but a little bit. But that just the fact of living in a certain place at a certain time had like tainted my perception of certain events, and that matters, but that's not necessarily like the worst thing ever. It's fine. Like
Yeah, no, it's
like
part of growing. It's part of learning.
and like for example, like in my job, like there's a newspaper I like called Al Jazeera. That's really good usually. It has a big bias for like Saudi Arabia, but like for everything else that's not Saudi Arabia, it's really good. So I use it. I know it. Yeah, I know it has a bias, but it's fine.
Well, that's the thing is whenever you read something, you need to know that there's a bias, and you need to be able to identify what that bias is, and that lets you kind of um, recalibrate your expectations of information and recalibrate a bit what you're going to get out of it. It doesn't mean that it's bad information. Quite the contrary. It just means that you need to know that it's probably leaning in a certain direction. And like you said, you just got to rein it in a little bit to go and compensate a bit for that. When you're doing like important research in particular, but in everyday life too, that's critical thinking. Really,
Yeah. Always
it's a
criti-
huge part of life.
always always criticize your sources, always corroborate. Don't take the word of someone on Facebook or QAnon or whatever the fuck is a new thing. Always confirm shit.
Yeah, yeah. Just because it's on the internet doesn't make it true.
Yep. It's not because they
Everyone has access to writing on the internet. Everyone.
and it's not because someone speaks loudly that they know what they're talking about. Remember
No,
that,
no,
kids.
that's yeah. Life lessons here on Mental BreakDads.
Don't watch Fox News, kids.
Or do as entertainment and for analysis purposes
It's not even
because it's
worth it.
super interesting.
It's not even worth it. It's gonna. I can't. I couldn't watch Fox News for the same reason I can't chill on Twitter anymore. It just like it kills me inside. There's too much stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Watch out for your mental health too.
Yeah.
Don't take too much. I'm never on Twitter, and I'm very rarely watching any clips from Fox News. But whenever I do come across one, it adds a bit of entertainment to my life, but definitely in small doses.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any subjects that you wanted to touch upon, or should we stop it here? Because I we did everything on my list.
Yeah. That sounds great for me.
Cool.
You've made a list and you've scheduled and structured your time. That's so on point.
I felt like if there was a podcast subject to do it, time management was the one.
Yeah,
We'll see for the next ones.
being super unprepared for the time management one would have been pretty a mood.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been kind of case in point too, right?
Yeah, like it's 10 p.m. Oh yeah, I just woke up. Sorry, guys.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, the last time I woke up past noon that we can, like, even just to go back a bit to what we were saying, and this can be cut out in post, but when I was a teenager, I was a morning person. I would wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, no matter what I had to do that day, just because I stopped sleeping. Like it wasn't an alarm clock or anything. And then when I turned 19, it just flipped all around and I could sleep until noon.
Yeah.
Whenever I could. But I miss being a morning person sometimes.
Well, just embrace that you have to be one right now, for the next few years.
Exactly. Whether I like it or not, that's the plan.
Yep.
Well, thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like if they like the video. If ever you heard anything or saw anything that made you chuckle or that you identified with or anything like that, leave us a comment too. That's always fun for us to hear from you guys. And if you like the podcast, obviously subscribe so that you can see when we bring out the next one. Go see the past ones too. They're also interesting on various subjects that we decided to talk about. Necrovoker and I, our weekly conversation.
We're fun people.
We are. It may not look like it right now, but it's 11 p.m. and we're super tired.
Yeah, it's still midnight for me. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, I didn't even think about that. We talked about daylight saving times, and I didn't even do the calculation in my mind. But
the older you get, like every I say chunk of 5 years you get in your life adds 1 day more that you need to adapt to daylight change. My mom says it takes her 2 weeks now. I'm starting to feel that way. So,
good. Daylight saving times suck. Abolish it. We don't need it anymore. We're not all farmers anymore, and even then it wasn't super useful.
And the farming provinces of Canada don't even have daylight saving, so fuck you guys.
Exactly.
Fuck you.
You know what? If they need light, they have giant lights. I have a freaking huge ring light right here that I could use to garden if I wanted to.
Yep.
Just leave me the fuck alone with daylight saving time.
Fuck daylight saving. I don't know who invented it, but fuck that guy.
I had it on I had pulled it up earlier. Hold on. Then we changed subject, so I decided to get rid of it. History, according to Wikipedia, so to be taken with a grain of salt. So apparently it was done within ancient civilizations during the Roman times in particular, but kind of like a more gradual thing using water clocks. I have never heard of water clocks.
Yeah, I don't understand how they work, but I know they use them.
But in more modern times, it seems New Zealand entomologist George Hudson first proposed modern DST. Shame on you. Shame on you, George Hudson.
Fuck you, George.
If you're watching this from the other world, shame.
Fuck you.
I think that's a good end.
See ya, guys.
All right. See you, people.